Hey guys, Mr. Washington here. Today we're going to talk about finding the whole. Figure out how to find the whole given the part and the percent. So, let's look at our problem. Jeans are 20% off today. They will be $9.60 cheaper than the full price. What is the full price of the jeans? So, just like with any other word problem, we're going to dissect this problem. We're going to break it apart and find out what we know, what is the problem telling us, factual things that we can pull from the problem to solve it. What do we know? What do we need to know? And then how are we going to solve it? So, let's look at this problem. 20% off. A clue here is 20% off. That tells me that I'm taking 20% off the full price, the total price. So if I were paying the total price, I will be paying 100% of what those jeans cost. But since I'm not, I'm paying 20% less, or taking 20% off the total. So that's telling me I'm going to subtract 20% from the total cost of the jeans. So instead of paying 100%, I'm going to take 20% from 100, which leaves me with 80%. So I will pay the 80% of that pair of jeans. They will be $9.60 cheaper than the full price. For something to be cheaper, that's another clue for us that tells us we're going to subtract $9.60 from the total price, because it says cheaper than the full price, meaning it's less than the full price of $9.60. So these two are actually equal to each other. 20% off the full price is equal to $9.60 cheaper than the full price. So both of those are telling me I'm subtracting either 20% from 100%, or I'm going to subtract $9.60 from whatever the full price is. So that's what I know. Now, what do I need to know? Question asked, what is the full price of the jeans? So what I need to know is the full price of the jeans. So I know I'm taking 20% off the jeans, total price. I'm taking $9.60 off the total price of the jeans. And I need to know the full price of the jeans. So I'm going to, just like with the other two, finding the part and finding the percent, I'm going to set up a proportion, which is two fractions set side by side equal to each other, and then I'm going to find mathematically what's missing. So I start with my proportions, make that a little bit bigger, and I know that I have 20% that I'm taking off from a total of 100%. So since I'm taking 20% off, that means I'm taking part of that 100%. Not the whole thing, but just part. So the part is always going to be in the numerator. That's the part you have, or in this case, the part I'm taking off. 20%. The total, or the whole, is what I need to have a total or whole. So 100% is what I would pay if the sale wasn't happening. But I'm taking 20% of that 100% off. So the part, the whole. Okay? So since I said these two, 20% off and $9.60 cheaper, are equal to each other, meaning that if I take 20% off the total price, that's the same thing as me taking $9.60 off the total price. So $9.60 is obviously the part that I'm taking away from the total price. So it's also going to go into the numerator. So now I have $9.60, something I know, and I have 20%, something else I know, out of 100%, all in my proportion. What I don't know is the full price of the jeans. So in its place, I'm going to use the variable x to represent it until we solve for what that total price is. So when finding the percent and finding the part, we would cross multiply and we would figure out the missing piece. In this case, instead of multiplying, we are going to divide. But before we can do anything with this percent, we have to convert that percent to a decimal. How do you convert a percent to a decimal, you ask? Well, it's simple. Looking at this setup, I have 20% over 100. When I look at this fraction bar, that fraction bar is going to tell me that I am performing the math function division. So I am going to divide when I see that fraction bar. So now I can read this as 20% divided by 100. Well, that will give me a decimal. That will allow me to convert this percent to a decimal. It will give me a decimal answer, 2 place values smaller than my number. So I can either work out the problem by putting 20% inside the division house and putting 100 outside and dividing it, or I can take the shortcut, and always when you're looking at a whole number, to the right of the ones place will be a decimal. Whether it's written there or not, you can assume that there is a decimal there. If there's no number to the right of the decimal, then the decimal is not going to be written. It's just going to be assumed that it's there. And so when I'm converting this to a decimal, I can either divide 20 by 100 or move my decimal 2 place values to the left, making my number smaller. Division allows me to make my number smaller. If I wanted to make it larger, I would multiply. That would move it 2 places to the right, larger than the number was. So I've converted my number, my 20%, to a decimal, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on these two numerators. I'm going to take $9.60 and I'm going to divide it by 20 hundredths, or 2/10. Which number goes inside the house, you ask? Well, since we're looking for the whole, the total price of the jeans, we have to divide the part by the percent. So the part is what's going to go inside the division house. So I'm going to place $9.60 inside the house. I've got too many decimals there. Let me just come out of that. Okay, that means I'm going to put 20 hundredths outside the house. Now wait a minute, that doesn't look right. I can't divide a number that's less than 1. I want to get rid of that decimal outside the house. Well, in order to get rid of the decimal outside the house, remember we said a whole number to the right of the ones place, that decimal will be there even if it's not written. So we're going to reverse that here, where we're going to move the decimal however many places we need to get rid of it or get it to the right of the ones place. In this case, I'm going to have to move it 2 places to the right. So that will put it to the right of the ones place, making this number 20. But what I do outside the house, I also must do inside the house. So if I move the decimal 1 place outside the house, I need to move it 1 place inside the house. If I moved it 2 places outside the house, I must also move it 2 places inside the house. So because I already have a decimal here for the price of $9.60, I'm going to start where my decimal is and move it 2 places to the right. So now I can look at this number as 960 versus $9.60. And I can also look at this number outside the house as 20 rather than 20 hundredths. So now I can divide. Can I get 20 from 9? The answer is no. If I had $9, could I give you 20? No, because I wouldn't have enough money. Can I give you $20 if I had $96? Yes. But how many times could I give you $20? That's the question. So, if you don't know, or if you're looking at those bigger numbers, those 2, 3, 4, 5-digit numbers, and you're looking at it as intimidating, do this little secret I like to do. I take one number off, make it into a friendlier number, and then also do the same inside. So since I'm looking at 20 and 96, I'm going to take the 0 off of 20, looking at it as just 2, and take the 6 off of 96 and look at it as just 9. So now, what can I multiply by 2 that will get me close to 9 without going over? So whatever method you use, whether it's skip counting by 2s, whether it's drawing the picture, however you solve your multiplication facts, 2 times 4 gives me 8. 2 times 5 gives me 10, which is more than 9. So that's going to be too much. So I'm going to go back to 2 times 4, which gives me 8. So 20 times 4, if I add that 0 back, is going to give me 80 instead of 8. Because 2 times 4 gives me 8. 20 times 4 will give me 80. I add my 0 back here, so I have to add my 6 back. So 20 times 4 can give me 80, and that would get me as close as I can to 96 without going over. So I write, notice how I write my 8 directly over the 6 in 96, because I'm not getting 20 from 9, I'm getting 20 from the total of 96. So I get 20 8 times from 96. Excuse me, not 8, I'm sorry, 4. I get 20 4 times from 96. That would give me 80. 20 times 4 gives me 80, and I subtract it out. 6 minus 0 is 6. 9 minus 8 is 1. So now I have 16. Then I bring down my other 0, and I have 160. How many times can I get 20 from 160? Well, I know that 20 times 4 gives me 80. So if I double 4, then I must double 80. If I double 80, or take off the 0 in 80, I'm looking at 8. 8 plus 8 gives me 16. So if I add the 0 back, now I have 160. So I know that 20 times 8 gives me 160. So I put my 8 directly over the 0 in 160, and I do 20 times 8 gives me 160. And I subtract that out and I get 0. So I have 0 remaining, and now I know that the total price of the jeans was $48. And that's how you find the whole.